3 o'clock. We're going to call this workshop to order. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. See, there's a lot of great interest in our community center, so we appreciate you guys participating in this workshop. We have several people that are scheduled on the agenda. If you're on the agenda scheduled, you do not need to fill out a speaker's card. If you're not on the agenda and would like to speak, you're welcome to do so. Please fill out a speaker card. Since we have so many people, we're going to try to be pretty tight on our 3 minutes per person. If you can keep it within that, would help us get everyone through and make sure everyone can make their comments. We are going to give Mr. Chuck Robinson 10 minutes since he is the president of the Coalition of Youth, and then if we have additional time at the end, we can open it back up. So at this point, I'll turn it over to staff.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Commissioner. This, as you know, the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth came to us a couple of weeks ago, sent us a letter stating they'd like for the county to assume take over operations. Therefore, during that time, we've presented some options to the board for the potential takeover of the community center. Excuse me. So therefore, this workshop is a result of that. Our thoughts are there's a lot of options out there. We've listed 4 in your agenda item. There could be as many as, who knows, 20 options. We just listed 4 of the more obvious ones. But this is a serious discussion that needs to happen. It has both from a physical helping our community. There's a lot of good things that are coming from our community center, but then there's also will be financial impact to our county as well, and we have a lot of, as you are very well aware of, we have a lot of needs out there and very little money to spread. So the idea is to give for right now is to have a discussion with the community. And as I suggested to each of you during our pre-commission meeting, it may be that, after you discuss this, if you can come to some type of resolution as far as some possible solutions that we can look at, and maybe either come back as an agenda item at the next meeting, or let's schedule another workshop for just you guys to talk internally. That would be nice, but it'd be nice to have some options to potentially work on, but it doesn't leave us a lot of time for you guys to talk. So. But with that, we're ready to go.
Very good. We'd like to point out, since it is a workshop, we are not able to make a final decision tonight. So just kind of playing on what he said there, we're going to listen to all the options, consider all the options, and maybe we can come to a point where we at least know the path that we're heading, but it'll have to be decided at a later meeting. So with that, we'll go straight down our list of speakers and start it out with Mr. Chuck Robinson.
Thank you, Commissioners. See if I can keep this under 10 minutes. I promise I'll try my best. I've got 2 short presentations I feel like to show you. One I presented to the Chamber earlier this couple weeks ago, titled In the Right Direction. It gives you an idea of the economic impact of the community center. It's a different take. We think about a community center as always providing services, but in reality it also has an economic impact to us. So first we got to begin, well, how much is that? Well, before I tell you how much of an impact it has on our community, there's a couple things I want to go over. First, I'm going to start with an example program. A great program that we run at the community center is the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office Kids Choice Program. For $10,000, essentially, it runs about 50 to 100 kids through the program. Deputies spend quality time, talking to kids about avoiding high-risk behaviors, bullying, all kinds of great things, and basketball. That's what that gym's for. So they get to enjoy that, hang out with the sheriff. Warren and staff do a great job doing that. The reason why I bring this up is that there's an investment per child. In this case, about $100. You have to apologize. My screen's getting cut off here. So one of the questions we have to ask is $100 per child. That's a pretty sizable investment, but what's the cost per day to keep a child in DJJ? Well, it's $110 per day for a non-secure facility and $156 a day for a secure facility. So you start asking yourself, well, but what about the true value, the intrinsic nature value of that child? But in other words, if we take this program and run the child through it and hope that the child actually has a productive career, nice tax-paying citizen, what becomes of them? There was actually a report done here by Mr. Cohen, and evidence base, we estimate the present value of saving a 14-year-old high-risk juvenile from a life of crime to range from, this is a big number, $2.6 to $5 million. In other words, if we have that child, if we encounter that child at an early stage, at 14, the big life changes start happening, and we get them on a path, a good path, as opposed to the not so good path, the troubled path, you're bringing in a huge impact. So is the risk worth the return on investment? So, I did promise you the early part of this was the economic impact, and we're still calculating on all these things. This is on a yearly basis. We're estimating at $1.2 to $1.5 million per year. A little bit more about the community center itself. Purpose today we're meeting is to discuss the continuing and future support and development of the mission of the One Stop Center to serve all citizens of Wakulla County. Our mission, of course, has always been enhancing the lifestyles the community to the community by providing a one-stop center for opportunities, resources, and connections that strengthen all citizens, youth, individuals, and families. How do we do this? Well, on a daily basis, our core purpose is to offer programs and services and refer citizens to outside programs and services. Secondary activities, those which are not necessarily within the core of OUNCE, involve community events such as waterfronts or back to school or empty bowls or Operation Santa. Then there's rentals and space sharing agreements and programs we have with various partners such as CCYS, CA, CAA. Of course, this brings us to the current status of funding the One Stop. As you guys have your packets, you already know that there's many questions we have about the current funding and where the funding is going to be going. So we have to ask ourselves, how is the One Stop currently funded in its programs and services, and what value does the center provide to our community? Current funding comes from several partners. Ounce Prevention of Florida, of course, the 21st Century. We have event rentals, space sharing agreements, and there's also various programs that we see and we'd like to see more of. Zumba is coming soon in case you want to take a Zumba class. Our valuation, of course, as I mentioned before, $1.5 million and up. What we learned in less than a year, you have to remember, those doors opened in April of last year. This is 11 months. First of all, management. What does it take to run a community center? Good question. Well, on a day-to-day management basis, you're looking at a couple of things. One, we have a fiscal agent at the sheriff's office, a full-time project director, a full-time community coordinator, 2 part-time community specialists, 1 overworked, underpaid executive director, contract manager, known as Gail. See? And of course, 1 overworked, unpaid president, which I will admit is me. And we get the occasional volunteers. Going forward, though, however, you'll see in your packets as well, something that's been discussed is we're looking for the fiscal agent to become the Wakulla County BOCC. We've talked about a full-time center executive director / contract manager, keeping the full-time project director that's already there, the full-time community coordinator that's already there, 2 part-time positions, possibly even an event manager and additional volunteers. Luckily, even with a thin staff, I mean, let's just face it, we've had 4 employees, 2 full-time, 2 part-time. We've had to resolve to working with our partners. WCCY has always had a powerful network, and that's what we use. This includes the WCSO, the school district, Board of County Commissioners, Wakulla Department of Health, and all these other great partners. These are the folks that either provide direct service at the community center, or we have citizens referred out to them. It's a wide net. Future-proofing the center, in other words, one-stop sustainability. How do we prepare for this future? Well, one thing's for sure, you got to fund it. The Ounce of Prevention Florida Fund Grant is yearly renewed 5-year grant program, and we are entering year 3. 3, 4, 5, that's what we have left. At year 5, there's an option. We could go after more Ounce of Florida Fund granting, or it runs out. That's a fact. We also have 21st Century paying cost share into the center. They've been a great partner helping us do that. Of course, their annual budget is also dependent upon the whim of the Florida legislature. One of the things we need to do is diversify our income sources. I'll be honest about that. How are we going to do that? I encourage additional grant opportunities, increasing those rentals and programs. This is cut off really badly, but one of the ways that we can actually show sustainability is looking at demand. And one of the ways I said, well, we know the numbers we've shown you for number of intakes. We can tell you the number of calls we get per day. I took an interesting metric and looked at it on Facebook. Okay, what does Facebook tell us? Well, we have close to 800 followers right now. Believe it or not, that makes the Wakulla One Stop Center page on Facebook as the fastest growing nonprofit page in Wakulla County. We have pumped out information faster. We've grown faster than my beloved chamber, than Wakulla News, and some others on Facebook. This is important because that means that as awareness grows, we already have the infrastructure in place to support that growth. What does that mean? That's scalability. We also have support from our neighbors. We did the petition. We found out we wanted to reach out and get exactly the feedback from our citizens to see what they thought of the center. It's good to have that customer feedback, and what we got was really blessed responses. This thing has had an impact anecdotally as well. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you guys and staff for making this happen. This never would have existed without votes, without vision. So, that's a brief overview of where we're at, where we're hopefully going, and I encourage you to keep continuing our support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Wendell Johnson. Okay. Come on up, Miss Christine.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here today. Hopefully I don't... Sorry, short people. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this 21st century program that I know there's still a lot of questions out there about. I am the site coordinator for the program. I've only been with the program since summer of last year. Before that, I was general manager working in Tallahassee, and really fell in love with this program in Wakulla County, and I really like being a part of it. So in order to make this as quick as possible, just looking at, first of all, what are we? We are an after-school program that offers care directly from school, so the buses drop them off from us, and then we are able to keep them until 6 o'clock when their parents can get off work or whatever they have, and then come and pick them up. We also offer, for teacher planning days, we offer full-day events for the students so they have somewhere to go, as well as spring break. We were open for the entire spring break period. We are funded by a grant that is held through TCC currently. What do we offer? We offer a free option to parents so that they can hopefully sustain a better quality of life. There are no restrictions. It doesn't matter how much money you make. We don't look at that when we accept the children. So anyone that is currently lives in a zone for a Wakulla County school, whether they actually attend a private school or a public school, as long as they are zoned for a public county, Wakulla County school, they can be accepted into our program as long as there's space available. Space is obviously limited. However, right now we have 154 kids that are currently enrolled in our program. So this offers the parents that option to, many of the people of Wakulla County do work in Tallahassee, and if you've ever drove that, it takes quite a while to get back here, so we offer that option for them. A lot of this money that they would have to be spending, you know, anywhere from $400 to $1,000 a month for their kids to go to an aftercare program, that money can then be spent in the county. For me personally, I have 2 kids that have been in the program since the program started 3 years ago, and this program enabled me to not only quit my job in Tallahassee, but I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, saw my kids maybe 1 day a week. Yeah, I got to send my kids to private school and all that, but I never got to spend any time with them. Now I've quit that job, went back to school, now a teacher for Coast Charter School in the mornings, looking to be a teacher for Wakulla County, and I don't want to leave Wakulla County. So it's definitely opened up a lot of options for me and also for many of the parents that are in our program. Looking at how does this bring money back to the county, all of this money that they would be spending in aftercare, they can now spend here. It also allows them to spend more time within Wakulla County. The more time you spend here, the more money you're going to spend here. It Again, open only for limited space. We're hoping to get up to about 160. We're at 154 right now. Students in the program, they have a lot of different options. We've done anywhere from dance lessons, Tiger Rock, looking at fitness options. We have Champion that works with us right now. We do a lot of health. And these are all things that if your parents work until 6 o'clock, they don't have time to take you to those. We also offer project-based learning. Am I too long? I'm sorry.
We're at the 3 minutes. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you. We just want to get everyone in. Thank you. We appreciate that. Next, also on behalf of 21st Century, Ms. Deidre Wakulla.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am a teacher at 21st Century. I'm also a teacher at Wakulla County School District. And this program at 21st Century is amazing. I have children, about 24 in my class, that on a daily basis struggle. These are the lowest quartile students. Once I've looked at them, I've talked to their teachers. They're getting homework help, which is in turn helping our school grades. The program that we have at 21st Century is a very well-rounded. It takes care of the educational needs. It takes care of, I have one student who actually has nowhere to go. In the 3rd grade, he was staying at home alone because his mom had to work. This is keeping kids off of the streets. It's keeping kids out of trouble. And also, I'd like to speak as a parent of a high schooler. He has nowhere to go. And so they love having the basketball ability to go in and play basketball. You have a lot of teenage people that if you look around, there's not much for them to do in Wakulla County. You can fish and you can hunt, and that's about it. And so this gives them a place to go that's safe. It keeps them out of trouble. There's adults that are there, and I just think it's a very good program. I wish that you would spend a little bit of money to help keep it open. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Next, on behalf of NAMI, Ms. Susie Took. Oh, Joanne Strickland's filling in. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Susie wasn't able to be here. Good afternoon. I'm Joanne Strickland. I'm with NAMI Wakulla, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We are one of the partners at the community center and have taught classes there, had kept an office there at one time. We offer educational programs to families and individuals, professionals, teachers, and counselors on mental health issues. And we know as of March that there were 49 of our students in our middle school and high school Baker acted. So there is a need for education on mental illness in our county. The One Stop Center has opened the door for us to reach more of the parents than we were able to reach in the past. So they've been a lot of help to us. It's been a lot of help. They also give us a place where we can hold our classes because we don't have a facility that's big enough to service, you know, any number of people. We hope to continue to have the opportunity to offer more classes, special programs, anything that we can do to help the parents in our county with this issue of Baker acting and mental illness that's going around. We support the center, and we hope it continues to provide more services to our community. Thank you.
Did you say 49 middle schoolers this year to date?
Middle school and high school students. That was through March. When we had a professional class, and our class ended in March, and it was reported by one of the counselors at that time that there had been 49 Baker Acts. Those are the ones that's been reported, so we know. We don't know how many, exactly how many.
Okay, thank you. Next, on behalf of the Department of Health, Ms. Tanya Hobby.
Good afternoon. I'm Tanya Hobby, the Assistant Administrator at the Florida Department of Health here in Wakulla County, known as the Health Department. We are in support of the One Stop Community Center. We began our journey at the One Stop, and we currently offer 2 classes there. 2 of the classes that we have offered has increased enrollment. It used to be 1 or 2 people that would sign up. Now we have a waiting list for our CPR class. And we are also getting referrals on a day-to-day basis for our childbirth class. We are super excited to continue to work with our community center and plan to expand to more classes, which will be offered to our youth with building leadership skills, increasing self-esteem, just to mention a few. The One Stop has been a great asset to this community and for Department of Health in Wakulla County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Lauren Whaley.
I'm Lauren Whaley from the Sheriff's Office. I'd like to first thank each of you for taking the time to listen to our cares and concerns. We all bring a different perspective, but we're all in agreement as well. Without that community center, there's a lot of things that we can't provide to the youth and other members of the community. Sheriff's Office provides a program to the youth every Monday from 3 to 8. During this time, there is a dedicated instruction period where a deputy speaks to the youth about topics that include the dangers of alcohol and drug use, bullying, citizenship, leadership, and sportsmanship. We also speak to them about the dangers of social media, peer pressure, and diversity. The program is facilitated by one paid deputy and one school resource officer. The resource officer is provided as an in-kind contribution, donating a total of more than 200 hours of time this year. We believe it is important that the youth are able to see familiar faces and build relationships with the school resource officers, as well as the relationships they are able to build with other deputies they see outside of school. After the instruction period, deputies spend time with the youth in a more relaxed and social setting. We participate in different sporting activities, mentor the youth, provide homework assistance, and over time we're able to become an open ear for them. The program, since its inception, has been attended by over 500 of our local youth. The One Stop Center has provided us, the Sheriff's Office, with the facilities that attract the youth. The center helps in spreading our messages and schedules via social media, newsletters, and bulletin boards. The center also holds other programs throughout the year where we're able to partner with other organizations and provide services to the community that otherwise would not be possible. The Sheriff's Office hopes to continue building this relationship with the youth well into the future. We believe the partnerships made with the youth will be invaluable as the program grows, and it is our goal that we continue to use the One Stop Center as a way to reach the youth and reinforce the positive relationships that we've been able to establish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, speaking for Wakulla County Schools, Ms. Tanya English.
And again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Tanya English, and I'm the Executive Director of Student Services and Exceptional Student Education with the Wakulla County School Board. And what that means is I ensure that children get the appropriate services. I work a lot with homeless students. I work a lot with our English language learners. I work a lot with our students with disabilities. And you've already heard the mental health concern that the school district has. And I'm really pleased that our school board has had concerns about this. They employed a licensed clinical social worker this year to help diagnose and provide treatment to students with mental health deficiencies. But the positive thing about the One Stop is it brings all agencies together in one place. Parents that commute to Tallahassee don't have the opportunity to come back, get their child, and take them for services in town. So through the One Stop, we've been able to have Capital City Youth Services, FIS, which is Family Intervention Services, not only provide mental health counseling to the child, but to the family. Again, through the school system, we can provide locker fees and support with materials and supplies to our homeless children, but often homeless children bring other needs to the table. They need help with housing. They need help getting their lights turned back on. And again, the One Stop has agents there that can facilitate application for those needs. So it's critical for our families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Miss Mary Ballard with FIS, and I apologize, I don't remember what FIS stands for. Just tell us.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. FIS stands for Family Intervention Services.
Very good.
And as you said, my name is Mary Ballard, and I'm a clinical social worker, and I'm privileged to work at the One Stop as a provider for the Ounce of Prevention grant at the center. By the close of this fiscal year, 2015, my colleague and I will have served 35 Wakulla residents, and that is families, through our Family Intervention Program. Now, our program provides 12 free counseling sessions per family that usually takes approximately 3 months to complete, And our sessions focus on families' individual needs as well as their personal goals for their family. Some of the common topics that we might cover include communication, conflict resolution, anger management, grief and loss, parenting, mental health issues like depression, anxiety, suicide prevention, and trauma, including domestic violence and sexual abuse. The initial results of those families who have completed the services has been favorable, and I'm happy to report that we're currently meeting or exceeding the requirements of the ounce grant. It may interest you to know that some of our referral sources include the Wakulla County School Board, Judge Jill Walker, the Department of Juvenile Justice, the Department of Children and Families, the Guardian Ad Litem Program, the Child Protection Team, the Wakulla Health Department, and inquiries from the Wakulla Medical Clinic. And what I've been told by many of these agencies that we can expect the need for these services to continue, if not increase. Now, what does the Wakulla One Stop mean for you personally? Simply stated, because the Wakulla One Stop has the potential to positively shape and mold our Wakulla neighbors and provide for their needs. By Wakulla neighbors, I mean the person who lives next door to you or works alongside you, or your spouse, or serves you at one of the local businesses. Or it may be a child who studies next to one of your children or studies along the side of one of your grandchildren. What we know is that the healthier and happier that we are as individuals and as families, the better quality of life for all of our Wakulla citizens. And as a therapist, I understand that stable mental health has to do with balance, and at the One Stop, there's something for everyone of all ages that help contribute to that balance, whether it's aftercare program, basketball, yoga, counseling, financial assistance, a church service in the evening, or employment support. I hope that the next time that you meet with one of your constituents that you will, and they need a resource, that you'll feel equipped and compelled to recommend the One Stop as a service to the residents. Thank you very much, and I'm in total support for One Stop.
Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Melissa Watson with Capital Area Community Action Agency. Okay. We'll go to Jason Inslee with Capital City Youth Services. Okay. Logan?
Hi, I'm Logan Farrelly, my supervisor. Jason couldn't be here today, so he sent me. CCYS stands for Capital City Youth Services. We're most popularly known for our crisis shelter that we do have in Tallahassee, which is our main office. But out here in the outlying counties, we serve kids 6 to 17. We provide non-residential counseling, individual, family, group counseling. We are a totally free service. We don't bill any insurance, don't bill any Medicaid. We're not accepting any fees. We also have up to 12 sessions, which lasts about 3 months as well. We have gotten a lot of referrals from the LCSW that is in the school. A lot of kids out here dealing with self-harm issues, family conflict, running away, and stuff like that. I've been out here for about a month now. We've previously had a counselor out here for about 6 months, but the need was so high that our agency opted to put another counselor out in Wakulla County. The One Stop has just been a very centralized location for us. It allows us to protect the parent's confidentiality, the child's confidentiality. If they're coming to the One Stop for anything else, no one knows why they're there. It's just been really helpful for us. A lot of our other clients we see at school, which is unfortunate because sometimes we can't deal with trauma histories in schools, so having an office and a space to do so has been beneficial. In the future, we're recently put together a conference room in the One Stop. We're really hoping to run groups over the summer, kids who are in DJJ, history and delinquency, running some anger management groups and getting them in there over the summer, and just really hopeful to for CCYS to become more well known in the community and have One Stop help us do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Pat Walker with NFMC, and you'll have to help me with that acronym. Not here?
Pat Walker is North Florida Medical Center, was not able to make it.
Okay. Gotcha. Very good. Eric Davis, Mission Church. I don't see Eric here. Nancy Floyd Richardson, Education Enrichment Council.
Good afternoon. I want to speak to you today as a mom, as an educator, and as a volunteer. As a mother, I really wish that we had had something like the community center for my children when they were younger. I think that it has programs that really prevent a lot of issues. It gives children a safe place to go. It gives them positive interaction with adults in their lives, and it also prevents a lot of stress in families because it gives them a financial safety net. It gives them a situation where they can have their children where they're not concerned about their safety. As an educator, I can tell you that it makes a difference when students come to us confident, cared for, able to collaborate, and ready to learn. It's an excellent opportunity for intervention services, and it provides positive, solid adult role models for our students. I work with the Education Enrichment Council. It is a youth program. It is in our 3rd year, and previously we were with another organization, so we have a little bit of history, and it wasn't meeting our needs. So we came to the community center and we said, this is what we do for our students. This is what we do in our county. How can we do this together? And it has been a really good collaboration from the last year. We have high school students. We have about 10 young ladies. It's open to males too, but we have ladies right now. And we do community service. We give them leadership opportunities. We run community events. We collaborate with others in our community. In the past 4 years, with a bunch of high school students and 50 cents at a time, we've raised about $4,000 in scholarships for our students. We've also donated money to other organizations such as Team Fleetwood and American Cancer Society Relay for Life. It is a student-led program, and our students have also worked with Ronald McDonald House, NAMI, Relay for Life, Empty Bowls, Keep Wakulla County Beautiful, AVID, Think a Police Officer Day, the Stone Crab Fest, Pause for a Cure, Harvesting for a Cure. So they really have done, I think, what the community center is trying to do and brought a lot of organizations together. If we can teach our youth how to do that, they will be much more productive citizens. They will be better volunteers. They'll be able to do what you guys are doing one day in serving our county. So I think if we can continue to give them a location to do that and a role model to follow, I think it will be really, really useful. I do have to say this, as a volunteer, you need services to be able to serve others. The community center provides that. Had I not been able to bring my program to the community center this year, we probably would have discontinued it. And I would hate to do that because it serves so many good needs. Transportation is an issue for our kids. They can't all stay after school. They can't all be involved in that way. So providing another location where they can come to, maybe it's an evening event, maybe it's a weekend program. It gives opportunity for those students who may not be able to do something directly after school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see, next, Miss Amy Geiger, the board president from the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth.
Hi, I'm Amy Geiger, and I'm honored to be able to speak on behalf of the One Stop Community Center. As a business leader, past chamber president, Wakulla County Coalition of Youth Governing Board chair, and most importantly, as a parent. In each one of these roles, the center plays an important part in our community. From an economic standpoint, the center has been able to employ 4 jobs and has allowed providers and agencies the opportunity to set up shop right here in our own backyard. For a community of 31,000, it is imperative we offer our youth and families a viable place to fulfill their needs. In order to create a sustainable center, we are requesting the county take over the management of the center. The coalition played a vital role in birthing the center. However, the needs of the community and the administrative responsibilities as it relates to the grant are more than the coalition can support. This is not a negative statement. In fact, it's a positive for our community. The coalition has successfully managed the ounce grant. However, the center has grown beyond anyone's imagination during the last year. As discussed early on, the center would ultimately move to the county within a 5-year time frame. Due to the overwhelming success, the governing board is requesting the transition take place sooner than the 5 years as originally outlined. Without the support of our business community, many of the programs would not be offered. I have always been amazed at the monetary and non-monetary contributions given by the business community. I can tell you as a business leader, we value our youth and understand they are our future. As you all know, we live in a rural community and services have not always been convenient to those of us in need.
The center provides for all residents of Wakulla County. 2 years ago, I never dreamed my own child would benefit from an agency that now resides at the community center. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, I was traveling to Tallahassee to obtain a resource that was not available until the center opened. What if I did not have the ability to transport my child? How many families would be missing out if we did not have a one-stop community center? The one-stop center provides opportunities for us to reach those individuals and families through prevention and intervention. The Wakulla One-Stop Community Center is a place for families to connect when they are looking to have fun and when they need to find resources. I ask for you to move this request forward and support our youth and families. The data captured during the first year is a compelling statement of our needs and community buy-in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Alan Wise with the Wakulla Chamber of Commerce, current president.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you guys, and also appreciate the time that you're taking to look into this. It's obviously an important topic to a lot of the citizens for good reason. 2 weeks ago, the Board of Directors met and discussed this, and I'd like to read you the resulting letter. We're writing this letter on behalf of the Wakulla County Chamber of Commerce to show our support for the Wakulla One-Stop Community Center and the many programs and services made available to the citizens of Wakulla through the center. We've been involved with the One-Stop Center in many ways, including the 2014 Chamber Political Forum. The One-Stop Center has had a valuable economic impact on Wakulla County, and we believe that the center will continue to sustainably grow now and into the foreseeable future for our community. Wakulla County stands to benefit greatly from the One-Stop Center, and we support their effort, their mission, and their vision with all earnestness. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Ms. Tammy Barfield, small business partner, owner of Bayleaf Market. Right here. Charlene Lanier, WCCY volunteer and board member.
Okay. Oh, that board member. Okay. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for listening. I've been involved with the One Stop from the day it opened its doors. I believe it's been a godsend for the people of this community. I've referred over 100 plus, and that's probably being generous, to the different partners that provide a multitude of services at the One Stop. I also serve on the Capital Area Community Action Board and was instrumental in moving our local office to the One Stop because it would better serve our clients, and it has been a wonderful thing to do. With all the services in this location, basically having a one-stop shop, it's made it much more convenient for the community, as everyone has already told you that. I've held meetings there, I've attended meetings, I've taught NAMI basic classes there, like the and I've been to events there like the Martin Luther King Day. I've volunteered with Operation Santa, taking client intakes and all that kind of stuff. And I've also just volunteered answering the phones. There are many, many more uses for the One Stop Center that we could do. We just have to think a little bit outside the box. But I appreciate you looking into this, and I support the One Stop Center 150%. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Arva Preston, I don't see her. Dr. Pienta. Herb Donaldson, I see him back there. Bruce is going to speak for Herb.
I just got thrown into the mud. My words are a little different, though. Commissioners, always thank you for your service. Thank you for this opportunity. Coalition, Friends of Wakulla Springs, firemen, boat builders, forest trails, Wakulla One. There are so many efforts in a rural county like this that are started with a group of volunteers that move the ball forward before government is involved in it. It's just a group of people wanting to make a difference. And back when the coalition applied for this grant, we were told, no thank you, we're not giving it to you, and then all of a sudden 2 years later we get the phone call, and we're about to realize over $700,000 in funding that has come through that grant. And grants are like a football. They get kicked around every year. Some get funded, some don't. We feel good that this grant's going to continue for another 2 years. We asked that the county become the fiscal agent 2 years ago, and the Ounce of Prevention Fund said no.
We've come back and asked for that in a bigger way with this request of you today. And it's always about the money. We know that's a hard decision, and I don't stand here before you today and say I know where all your money is being spent, but I think you can tell from what you're hearing today this is money well spent. I think you can tell that there is community buy-in. I think you realize the community need. I realize as well you all didn't sit here and make the decision to buy that piece of land and that building as a collective group, and I realize you're being asked to look for ways to keep it going. But I think the value is there. I think you see that. I think the potential is only just being started. There is so much potential there with the collaboration of all the people you've heard from today and more to come. Grant opportunities will continue, as much as I would not like to have to write all those grants myself. Thank you, Cherie. Thank you, Katie. But we are all here to help. Every one of these people speaking today are not trying to dump it in your lap and leave you with the ball to deal with yourself. We are all going to continue to help make this thing thrive. It grew beyond the coalition's ability and capacity. If you come over there and spend a lot of time, you can see that every day. But we're all in this together, and I don't want you to think we're putting it on you. We will be there for you as a collective, as a collaborative. There's too many thank yous in this room and not in this room that have helped make this what it is today. But it has birthed, it has grown, and we're asking you to consider it's your land, it's your building, and yes, we are asking you to look at the real future of having a sustainable community center for your citizens that you represent, and we are all in it with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's the last of our scheduled speakers. Herb, did want to speak? Herb? No, he spoke on behalf of Herb.
Okay.
We have one more. Miss Robin Lund.
Good afternoon. I'm here because this year I'm serving as Director of Operation Santa, and I want to thank all of you for being so supportive of that effort, but also to say that without the One Stop we would have had a much more difficult time, and we really appreciate them because, you know, we lost our home. That's the building we used to use to disperse and everything, but we don't really mind that because, as you've heard, there's so many wonderful services going on there. And that's what we're all about, is uplifting the entire community. Operation Santa used the One Stop Community Center this year as the only place where people could make an application. And that made life so much easier on everyone. We were also able to refer those people to those services that you've been hearing about. So we are hoping that through that effort that we are helping all of these families have a better life in Wakulla County. So I hope that you'll be supportive of the request that you've heard today. Operation Santa looks forward to another great year, and we'd love to go back to One Stop. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Chuck, you'd like to
Can I
come
ask
up?
you a question? Chuck, a lot of the, when this thing was first forming, a lot of the things we heard from the citizens are the kids, the youth in this county don't have anything to do. Just, and I'm not making any judgments at all, so don't infer it that way, but as an example, I have a 12-year-old daughter, okay? She doesn't need mental counseling. She doesn't, you know, just a kid. What could she do at this community center?
We do have a challenge here. We do have a partnership with 21st Century, and we do have kids on site.
Other than 21st Century, let's separate them out.
That's why I'm separating them out. But because of that, we have to live with the reality that there's space taken during those hours, but it's a great thing because it is being used for capacity. What we're seeing, though, is capacity-wise, is there a what I call a dead time between 9 and 2 during the school year. When you're looking, we've had kids come in. I had 2 girls came in, and they were kind of, what are we doing here? You know, what do you guys do here? Our parents dropped us off. We have nothing to do. And so we said, well, usually you can come to the basketball during this time, or you can do this during that time. And instead of actually, you know, having 2 kids leave the doors bored, we flipped one of them into, well, are you interested in volunteering? Can you do this? Can you do that? So as we grow, we know that gym can be fully utilized even more. I mean, we're picturing big things for that gym. Meanwhile, for other programs, you're right, we do create other programs that have, I'm thinking going forward here, say for 2015, we're going to have opportunities for classes such as in theater, but in violence and conflict resolution in theater. So those who basically would normally want to do that can go through that program. We'll have nutrition as well. So you have to realize during the startup phase, we're trying to learn exactly how to handle our capacity, but also scale up to provide services such as your daughter coming in, such as my son coming in as well. So we want access to all. Our purpose is to give access to all kids. Now, Saturdays and Sundays are also a great opportunity to look at for county utilization. We could eventually get PRD involved as well. So that's, you have to remember, staff is not even there. We could operate a network of volunteers. Once again, we need that help as well.
You were around when this first comes around, and you heard the citizens.
I've been here since
the kids have nothing to do after school. They're going out and they're getting in trouble. We need a community center where they can go and hang out and have things to do. And that doesn't sound that's what's happening over there, to be honest with you. Like I said, what would my daughter or your son, if she wanted to go over there after school, there's nothing for her to do, is there? And I'm not being critical. I'm just trying to educate myself.
It is something we've looked at. It is part of something we have to address, but we also realize that everything comes at a cost. To offset the cost of what we face, in other words, to run the center itself, we have to look at partners like 21st Century. We have to look at kids. There's 150 kids. They'll be there 10 hours a day during the summer. Yes, that means kids will come in that aren't part of the 21st Century and go, well, what can we do here? It provides a challenge, but the way I look at it is every time there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. Well, it means the site's not being used at night. Can we do something? Can we run a program at night? So that goes back to we have capacity. It's just a matter of when we utilize it.
Is anybody, any other citizen group coming in and trying to start up anything up for youth?
There are all kinds of different programs. I mean, we go from the Taekwondo, Tiger Rock folks that are there in the evenings. We have Zumba coming up, as I mentioned.
Well,
but we have PIO, which is more exercise. There's all kinds of little programs, those micro programs, which is a great opportunity, by the way, for entrepreneurs that can't afford, a full retail space.
So my daughter could join one of those programs, for example.
Exactly.
Okay. That was all.
Volleyball, basketball,
and
church league.
If you'll recall, actually one of the famous things I remember, I'll always remember Simon Nelson sitting up here going, I have to drive my kids up to Tallahassee to play in a basketball league. And those kids drive to Tallahassee on weekends, pay $40 per month or whatever the session is to play in this league. It's a for-pay league. And I say, well, wait a minute. We've got Saturdays open in the gym. Why can't we use that? Why can't we do the exact same models? We've been even starting this program going into 2015-16, looking at, okay, based on the performance we saw at the MLK Day event, which had a basketball tournament involved. We had 70 students, I think, involved. So obviously there's that, wow, we could do this. Because not every year the PRD is running basketball. We could run this as a full-time basketball program. There's also, if you realize, volleyball there. We could actually run volleyball tournaments there. So that's just the gym. We can, everything we utilize, dances and things like that. There's that full capacity on the weekends is something to be looked at, and that's what I would really look at. The after school, yes, it's taken during the school year. If you guys want to build another building, I'm sure we can make something happen here, but
is there any way to work those in together? And so 1 or 2 days a week that say the gym would be available to kids that are not in the 21st Century program?
I defer an answer because we are based on a contract. So there's always opportunity.
I mean, can it be rescheduled so the hours are changed so it would open some slots like that?
Or they could open it after the time, after 6.
After 6 o'clock, it's green light. Yeah. It's a matter of staffing, of course. We have to have somebody on staff there to make sure the place is locked up. There's an alarm system, for example. But that can also be further developed by a more intense volunteer network. And we had people saying, yes, sign me up. How can I help?
But right now, there's no presence after 6.
That's right. There's a double-edged sword with 21st Century. It's a great program for kids, no doubt. The problem becomes is it ties up the community center during 3 to 6 and also in the summertime considerably.
10 hours in the summer.
With understand this, with no real reimbursement back to the county government itself, back to the Board of County Commissioners. There's some reimbursement for electricity and janitorial, etc. But that's about it. And they're tying up 90% of the community center. But they also serve a great niche. So it's one of those tough things that even if we were to take it over, is how to do what you're saying, Randy. How can we benefit during that prime time of 3 to 6, how can we involve other people in the county? And that's tough. And that's where it gets tough, because their funding is they're 21st Century. They'll provide the teachers, the materials, etc. We provide the facility, basically, is the way it's working.
David, 21st Century basically paves their way. They just occupy the majority of the building.
They pay a portion of the utilities and a portion.
Yeah,
I
don't have any problem with that, but it seems like that going down the road, they may be dropping that expense over to us.
Not 21st Century, not as of right now. What'll be dropping potentially is the ounce.
Yeah. So you got 21st Century occupying 80% or 85%.
Understand ounce provides the bulk of the revenue to run the community center. Okay, they provide the bulk of the revenue. All right, 21st Century pays for reimbursement of some of the expenses, but ounce provides the majority of the revenue that comes to the community center. So as soon as ounce leaves and there's not another grant, it'll cause a vacuum that we would have to pick up.
Well, if it's 21st Century, there's not a pickup on that, really.
No, 21st Century, they're occupying space.
They're occupying space.
That's
They're
right.
not costing money, per se, in a broad sense.
Yes.
We may have to mow the grass and pay the utilities or something like that.
We still have to have somebody to maintain it. Somebody has to be.
But they're using the building, and it's sort of like a no-cost thing. And then do they use the gym? Are they involved? So they use the whole facility for that time.
Well, there's, like I say, like Chuck said, there's days we'll have events at the gym that you go ahead and let 21st know, and they can reschedule around that. So there's times, but it's just not every day. It's like they can't have it between 3 and 4, and then we open it up to the public from 4 to 5. It doesn't work like that.
But the ounces, it seems as their funding will be dropping away, possibly.
Yes, sir.
And our funding increases to pick up that.
So pick that board up.
I think I heard you say after 2 years we could apply again and possibly get another grant.
That's not going to happen, no.
Well, I mean, it's the ounce of Florida. I've heard rumors, for example, from other programs. This is really, they try to pilot things so that they become self-sustainable. It's not impossible, of course, but it really would be one of those things I wouldn't hang my hat on it. But there are plenty of grant opportunities through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services of America, awkward acronym, but those grant opportunities are going out constantly. Shereen may have even seen them. And those are things that are big-time programs that fit into the preventative mold. In other words, where ounce leaves, another grant can come in and take over.
I think what it boils down to is we have to be willing.
Yes.
We have to decide if we're going to be willing to spend $200,000 to $300,000 worth of taxpayers' money if we want to keep the community center the way it is today. Mm-hmm. When that grant goes away, then that's the elephant in the room.
Or charge fees or fund it.
Well, we can't charge fees for
if I may, though,
intervention.
Before we start talking day-to-day dollars, once again, that's a prima facie argument. You're not considering what I would mention, the intrinsic value of something. You could certainly say, well, okay, if we save ourselves this amount of money, then we can, everything's all great. But you're losing in the end. What you could be long-term paying for it in other ways. Is it jail time? Is it dependency on the county for other services? These are the kind of things you have to consider. You can't just look at it as a line item today.
Well, on the same hand, if we looked at our dirt roads like that, everybody calls us idiots because we haven't paid all the dirt roads in the county, because over time it costs more dirt road costs, but we just don't have the money to pay all the dirt roads in the county.
But
there's a limited amount of
if you'll note,
money.
One of the things we have discussed was that we have to consider diversifying income revenue. That is a given. You don't run something as large as the community center based on one grant. If you want to run new programs, in fact, I was talking with Shelley Swinson with UF Extension saying, well, okay, if we can't fit your nutrition program under ounce, then what can we do? Well, there's plenty of there's plenty of grants out there fighting childhood obesity. Guess what? You don't depend upon ounce now. You're depending upon another grant to provide the same services to a class or to a group there. That's literally what you have to track down if you want to make this sustainable.
You thought that your program would stretch out over 5 years with the funding that you had.
Correct.
How much of that funding do you have today?
Well, we're putting in this year's fiscal budget, which is due at the end of this week. but it was 240 or 235 last year. It's 240 that we're putting in for this
So
year.
at the end of this physical year, you'll be out of money.
By June, well, it's a burn down chart.
So-
It's the perfect opposite, and have to excuse me, 'cause I'm from the business world, so I think in terms of if I have money to save, I'll keep it for next year, but it's not like that. Of course, we know through the grant process, you get that lump sum at the beginning of the contract, you burn it down through the year by showing your invoices and whatnot, so.
Did you make any changes on your next budget submittal to the, because when I spoke to the ounce person, they were a little disappointed, I guess, that some things that are in the contract are not actually being done.
Such as?
She specifically mentioned, I think the library coming there was in there.
Right, okay,
The health
listen.
department doing the CPR
This
at
is
the
a s-
community center.
Right. All right. The way I view this is seed startup growth phase. We've already hit seed and startup phase. We've run programs not knowing exactly what kind of impact they were going to have. Meanwhile, trying to build an awareness in 1 year. That was hard enough work as it is without a marketing budget to drive people or transportation budget. So we ran programs that we thought lined up with the goals of our vision and mission. And some programs work, and some programs don't. So what we do, and they're concerned, and the reason why we're working hand in hand with Ounce is that we can say, well, hey, Ounce, what programs are working down in Fort Lauderdale, down in West Palm Beach? Those are the exact same programs we're looking at implementing. In fact, one of them, the W Initiative, is run by Zach Richardson out of Tallahassee and Pivotal Point, his center, which has been really successful in building the character elements. And we're going to be running that program in 2015-16. I think they understand it from our standpoint, where not every program you put forward is going to run.
That's
it's
why
just
I'd
not
asked
going to
you.
work. So we have to, in order to spend the money, we have to go in there with additional new programs that, once again, fit within the mold of that ounce. And that's a tight window to fit in when you're looked at and said you need to provide maternal and child, welfare and health. It's not like you can sit there and go, one of our most popular requests is for tutoring, because testing is driving kids nuts, driving parents nuts too. We can't offer tutoring. It's not within the ounce grant.
So I guess the answer is yes, you have made changes.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. If I get long-winded, I'm sorry.
Any other questions for Chuck?
Well, I want to ask Chuck, I remember whenever we first talked about this, that it was floated, one of the partners that possibly could come by and be a part of it was like the Boys and Girls Club. Well, is there anything about Ounce that would prevent them from, the Boys and Girls Club, from possibly filling some of that need that Randy was mentioning a while ago? The Boys and Girls Club, they have a presence in surrounding counties, but they don't have a chapter in Wakulla. And in the past, I had talked to them, in the Big Bend about coming, and they had expressed an interest. In the past, they said they didn't have nowhere to go. So is it something in there that they might could fill some of that spots to fill some of the other needs?
We're continuously looking for other partnerships, of course, because that's something that's expected out of Ounce, for us. You need to see those cost shares come in. Once again, you do have to operate within the parameters we're given. We have a great partner here in 21st Century, but that requires facility utilization at a certain time and that certain space. Ounce also doesn't like it when you bring in a program that's going to do exactly the same thing as another program that they're funding. So we can't have that mirroring effect, if you will. We discovered that today as we were going through new program development, that there's a lot of things Wakulla DOH was doing in the schools that we couldn't put forward as a new program because that would be a mirrored effect. But anything's possible, really. When you have Saturday and Sunday there open, Sunday we do have Mission Church that goes in. They're one of our regular partners. They pay a fee to provide service on Sunday. After Sunday, after that service on Sunday, that's a wide open place, and Saturdays, of course. So.
Briefly.
Yes, sir.
Chuck.
I'll be brief. I'm sorry.
All right. The after-school program from 3 to 6, which is, I guess, our sweet spot for what the community wanted, was something for kids to do. Is, with the number of students in 21st Century, is the facility at capacity right now anyway? I mean, are we leaving
from 3 to 6?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now, so the only people that can be there from
If
3...
I can, I think it's not only at capacity, but I think you have other kids that are
Okay.
This is Wendell. Wendell, you want to come over?
Well, my other question is, in order to qualify for 21st Century, you have to have, it's based on needs, I think, Christina said it's based on their grades or their problems they're having with grades. It's not on income. What's it based on? So anybody can sign up. Okay. You don't have to have any GPA delinquencies or just...
No.
That's why you got a wait list, because it's free after school care then.
Commissioners, this is, if I may.
I knew we'd get Wendell up here
Eventually. How are you guys
Come
doing?
on.
He couldn't stand it here. We want to get up here anyway.
How's it going, Dave? Commissioners, it is completely free. And in addition to being free, we offer 21st century cutting-edge activities to the children in Wakulla County. Whether it be the gardening, the computers, we currently have 50 up-to-date standard computers, and we have a teacher that's teaching them all kinds of coding and different things.
I guess my point is actually, in your defense, is that the facility is at the capacity from 3 to 6 to do what we intended it to do.
Yes.
It's not set aside for an exclusive group, either that has problems or don't have problems or GPAs. So I really think that 3 to 6 margin is being accomplished by 21st Century. If the facility's at capacity anyway, and it's not excluding anybody for any reason, then that's really what we were trying to do. Now, the other side of the I understand that 21st Century and the ounce grant are two different entities altogether. I
Yes.
understand that.
The issue that you're going to run into, and I think I've spoken with David about this, you're always going to have someone that says we wanted to use, but we couldn't. So if
There's
we're
no
at-
room, even if you were a different group, whatever, there's still no more
if there's
room.
150, there still wouldn't be any more room.
That's the point I was trying to make.
Good point.
Thank you.
And don't you also have kids that are in the program that are above and beyond what the grant is paying for?
Yes. The grant pays, we have to maintain 80% of 140 students. We're currently at 154 with a 20 or 30 person waiting list. So we're already doing beyond what the grant is asking us to do. We essentially need to maintain 124 kids, 122 kids a day. We're maintaining 154. We're pushing the envelope. The facility can hold 165. We don't have space in certain classrooms for 165.
Right.
So we're pressed as far as we can go. And when you come on Monday through Friday, you're going to see.
To answer my question to Chuck earlier, his answer should have been, your daughter could sign up for 21st Century. When a slot opens, your daughter could go to that, so could my son.
Absolutely.
That was what I was trying to squeeze
Can you
out of
possibly make space available for other programs when you're not utilizing your program?
We can do whatever we want.
We can be nice and move some things, but to move 160 kids every day.
No, I'm not talking about that. You have time when you're not there or
Yes.
when you're not using.
Christine does an amazing job of moving.
That's what I'm talking
Yes.
about.
You mean
Not
after
inter-
6?
Not
You mean after
interfering with
6?
yours.
When he's
but-
not there, it's wide open.
We can do
As
whatever
long
we
as we
want.
can staff it, that becomes the challenge, is having staff there.
But even from 3 to 6, if the sheriff needs to get in there, or NAMI needs to get in there, or some other organization needs to get in there, as long as we're given enough notice, Christine does an amazing job of moving, and she's got 2 decades in the restaurant industry. She can set a schedule. Okay.
I remember her when she was in college, before college. But anyway,
yeah,
I think I'm pretty satisfied with the goal that's being accomplished from 3 to 6, the after school. That meets, I think, what the citizens were asking for, which is something for the kids to do. We just don't have enough room for every kid in the county to come over there.
Which is a good problem.
It's free after school care. You can't beat that. You got working parents, even parents that want a break from their little kid, bless their heart, they can send them there.
But they have to stay. They can't just hit and miss,
Right,
come
right.
and go. They have to participate.
We'll take you to the sheriff's office eventually. But the other thing that I think that is important as far as from our perspective is our grant is in excess of $500,000, and 90% of that goes back directly into Wakulla County. We hire all of our teachers with the exception of one from Wakulla County.
Mhm.
All of our pairs, all of our vendors, all of our everything goes directly back into the county.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
That's an important. David is right that there's not a lot that comes to the
It doesn't come
county
directly to the
us
county.
to
Right.
operate the center, but that is going to the outward to the county in the form of jobs and payroll.
Because they're two separate entities, even if we couldn't work something out with the community center as a whole, they could still stay there, right? So we need to keep that in mind, too.
Well, that as I said, there's a lot of options, and there's an option there that says, ounce, you can go on away or whatever you want to do, let that run out, and then we run it as a community center with 21st Century as a partner, and they have these slots, and then we take it from there. I mean, that's another option. That's like I said, there's probably going to be 10, 20 options.
And not to scare anybody or anything, but any of these programs, if we decide not to move forward with ounce, we could still, if we wanted to offer them space for whatever, those programs wouldn't need to go away either.
That's right.
Okay. Because I assume
Now-
most of the ounce grant goes towards salaries. Is that correct? most of the ounce grant pays for administrative costs? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
We have roughly, I believe, I don't have my numbers in
It's
front of me.
another YEF.
It's almost I compare it versus direct services, because we're always, when you're handling grant, you want to make sure your admin costs are down, your direct service payments are high, and it's $90,000 for payroll, but it's above that, or it's about that much also for direct services for our partners. And
what are
everything else-
direct services,
everything is-
if you don't mind explaining?
Direct services, what we pay with our partners. In other words, our deal
So your
with
subcontract
WCSO.
costs?
Exactly.
Okay. So you pay, I mean, like, do you pay NAMI, or do you pay...
1,000 to the sheriff's department, I think, that you pointed
Correct.
out.
Sheriff's Department, okay.
FIS is 40.
Subcontract
things like
costs
that, yeah.
in my world, okay.
Why is the
By the way,
sheriff's department getting paid? I don't understand.
They run
For their programs.
They're
that they
getting
run.
paid from the grant, not from the
Yeah.
county. They were part of the original, 4 partners with the ounce
That's right.
grant.
They run Kids' Choice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was asked that not just for the sheriff's department, for anything that these payments are going out to. You know, one of the options that the county had in the past was a volunteer effort, which we chose not to go with. So let me get my arms around what some of these numbers are, because I don't see the statement that 21st Century pays for itself. As far as what I saw is $15,000 or some figure like that. I don't see, for the amount of time that they're using that space in the building, if they were to go out in the open market and try to get that space for a year, I don't think it would cost $15,000. But let me just go back and ask you, Chuck, some questions, because you know, and I think Commissioner Merritt pointed out that the intent in buying that building was for the youth of our county. You know, the senior citizens are there, and a great program for our seniors, but there was this lack for our youth, and it was that drove the board to want to develop a community center, not just for our youth, but primarily for our youth.
Right.
So 2 years, the board listed it as its priority. When you say the payroll is at $90,000, is that the complete figure with the whatever it is, the
With FICA in as well?
with everything? Yeah.
But that's not the staff for 21st Century.
Understand? I'm going. I'm just trying to get my arms around some of these numbers.
It's Commissioner, it's roughly on 100,000.
Okay. All right. And
For providing 80,000, which we're always trying to increase, of course, for direct services.
It's actually, excuse me, it's actually in your agenda item. You'll pull it up. I have the WCCY budget in there. If you'll pull it up, it's $99,000 for total compensation, $86,000 for program support.
I'd also like to point out we're submitting in 15-16. We have been asked by ounce for more direct services from staff, so therefore staff have two staff members will be running programs as well, so that's no additional cost for additional direct services.
so 21st Century uses the majority of that activities area, the gym, and things like that.
Use the whole thing.
Yes, during the hours of 3 to 6, they use the whole.
The arrows, and we need it as a community. Right. Right when the community needs it. Okay. So there are 2 activities going on simultaneously, the gym activities and the classroom activities?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm good. I just don't see some of the numbers working there. I was sort of surprised when I saw the 21st Century. I think I wrote down 16,000 in my notes, but whatever the exact figure is.
That's what it is. Actually, it's about 17,000 this year. But like I said before, that's what they bring to the table is the resources to hire the teachers, like Wendell said, that's county folks, and you use county resources. They supply the resource and the dollars. We supply the facility. It's basically how it works, and they're saying we'll pay for some of our.
And I agree with Howard. The $16,000 doesn't cover the cost.
$16,000 doesn't cover your full cost, but understand where that grant comes from.
I acknowledge that, and I'm willing to subsidize for the value that brings to the table. And you're right, Howard, that 3 to 6, that is the time, that the after-school time that citizens wanted something to do, but that was my line of questioning, was leading to that the kids, the youth are there for free now. It's at capacity, so I think it's accomplishing what the citizens asked us to accomplish, which is after-school activities. Now, what happens after 6? I talked to David about maybe expanding the rec department somehow. Don't freak out yet, but if we had a basketball program there that could use the gym from 6 to 10 or whatever, because I took my daughter to Pop Warner Cheer in Woodville. I always liked their community center. Half of it's a library, the other half is an area, and I took her there at, whatever it was, 6 o'clock. She'd do her little cheer stuff, and I'd go back and pick her up. And, there's things that could be utilized there. There's a lot of people that live around the community center.
I agree with you, Andy.
Sure.
The fact is that the 21st century is serving the community. It's all those kids that are there. Their mothers are now able to go, to be able to stay on the job, get a job, the money they contribute to the county. So they're a valuable resource, and I don't have any problem with not charging them full rent for that building. I can go along with the building. We didn't have a use for it. It was not being used. Their benefit to the community is you can't put dollars on it, just like you said. It's not a dollar deal, but the bottom line is they're not costing us anything, but it may be a few dollars, but the big cost of everything else, that's
return on investment is very good. That's what
you better believe it. And
I've run the numbers on ROI, making sure that the admin costs. And if I can touch on admin costs, I know it's one of those concerns when you're running a nonprofit. You keep that number below 20%, for example. And if we had literally 2 full-time people and 2 part-time people just standing around making sure the chairs didn't walk out the door, I'd be pretty upset too. It's a pretty high payroll. But you know what? 10 phone calls a day at least. Huh?
Nobody's
Okay.
upset.
No, I'm not saying upset. I should say it's something that people often forget when you're examining labor. What does your labor do? And with the 10 phone calls coming in, per day for a service that may not be referred to directly here in Wakulla. For example, I'll use a home. When I was working on the phone one day, actually was one of my other employees working the phone, and a woman called in and said she was literally going to be homeless within 48 hours. It's a snap-to-action call. We started making phone calls, tracking down, finding out what resources we have. So that's a lot of what you see. It's a lot of what we don't even tick. We actually have tick mark sheets. We don't count them as intakes within the out system. We don't count them as other full intakes. So luckily that's because of our network of partners that we do have that we can relay out to.
I want to go ahead and say what I think, just so y'all have something else to talk about. I don't think that I'm personally supportive of just picking up the same model we have today and shelling out $200 to $300 of taxpayers' money. I think personally willing to maybe put more towards the recreation side and more, I think the after-school need is being met, but more towards the recreation side, maybe something in compilation with the library, because I think there's definitely a need for some, not a burnt and full branch, but maybe, because when we spend money on a library, we get it back with increased grants. I remember Alan Brock's impassioned speech that one day, Jerry, but we need to keep spending more monies on the library. But I don't know if I'm willing to commit to funding the same model we have today. Maybe make space available to these folks if they want to offer their services there. Here's some space where you can still do it. We're not going to pay you to do it. I mean, the reason they're being paid now, is my understanding, I may be completely wrong, is the contract with the ounce says you have to do this. Now, they could have done that 2 ways. Chuck could have, I don't know, Chuck, you don't work there, but the people that do work there, they could be the one providing these services or whatever, or going out, or they could subcontract it out. They decided, I think correctly, to subcontract it out. So they're paying these groups to come in and do this. Now, will these groups come in and serve the citizens of the county if they're not paid to do so? I think a lot of them probably would. I don't know that, but anyway, if they were offered space to do it, if you want to have a meeting for this or that or the other, here's some area you can do it. After 9, there's plenty of room. So, anyway, that's my
Randy,
thoughts.
I agree with everything you said. We can't talk outside of this office, but outside of here. But basically, let the 21st century continue as they are, then move, and as the as the other groups, we'll just have to work that out. But from a standpoint of recreation, providing recreation, whatever you want to spend on recreation for our youth, because that's who's going to be here soon, I will support that. It doesn't even matter, because our youth is our most valuable asset. So if you're using rec programs there, and they'll be run by our people that we already have. So
These
I
other
totally
programs-
support you.
The other programs are very important, but unfortunately, we're the one that has to answer everybody. When I told David when he and I was talking about this, there's really no way we as politicians can win,
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be mad at us no matter what we do.
Mr. Chairman,
I don't think their programs will go away. They may be decreased, or they may have to scramble.
Well, when I talked to Bobby earlier today, he said the big thing for him was just having it all here instead of having to send people to Tallahassee. So it's a convenience thing, and yeah, I think it is one of the biggest benefit it brings to the table. And unfortunately, you may not be able to afford that all the time.
Well, and we can, if this is one of the things that you kind of give consensus on, we can come back and give you some how we could operate the community center, just as you said. And naturally, we can't operate a center and have that many children there and do it with my existing staff. We'll have to bring, I'll have to put something in there for that. But we can couple scenarios, run out the ounce grant, the end of the ounce grant, here's what we transition to, or however that works. We can have a fluid program if that's one of the ways that you guys kind of in a short of way wants to look at.
I don't know if I made myself clear enough. My root thought is I am not willing to continue funding the current model and just say, all right, here's the money, keep doing it the way you're going to do it. I'd like to transition more to something maybe sooner rather than later, where it's more focused on the youth, which was the mission of it. I still like the library idea, because that'll give school kids, if you had 10 or 12, 20 wireless computers there, a lot of people don't have computers at their home, and you almost have to have one now to do homework, even in middle school.
You're saying bringing the library into the community center?
Yes, not open up a full library, but that would, then if we had to pay somebody to be there full-time, we could leverage that and get additional grant money. I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, there's one of the things that we're working on is also the library, our existing library, can handle some of these programs as well at the existing library.
They show movies at the library. They have speakers
also,
in the library.
I mean, there's a couple of alternatives going down the road, but I think what we got to look at is and you're right, Randy. The problem with ounce, and Chuck can tell you, it's a good program, but buddy, it is strict, and it has some reporting requirements that'll drive a sane person insane.
I understand.
And do we want to take that on for a diminishing return over time?
Give it up.
That's what we need to look at. But one of the things that we're looking at also for the library is and talking to Robin, we're not necessarily wanting to open up a separate branch, but take some of these programs to the library. But in the future, what we're looking at is there are grant funds for our library that we could get in the county to build another library. When we do that, build it at the community center, then you've got a bigger thing. If
Free
that's what we
grant.
want to do.
3 grants.
I agree with Randy.
But we look at all alternatives.
The library is today. Right here is your library. You have access to the whole world.
Well, I tell you what you do. You go down to the library and you talk to the hundreds of people that are there right now.
Yeah. But basically speaking, this is your library. We've got elementary schools all over the nation now that the only thing the kids have is a computer.
It almost operates like a Med-Art community center.
But we have a full library down there right now.
Yeah, well, that's not to say that you can't have
that
access to computers over here, but I'm not really excited about building another library. Though a library is yesterday's news, with all due respect. This is today's news.
I want you to come to our library.
I don't care.
I want
whatever.
you to come to our library.
I understand that. But your access to the world and to books and whatever, I don't even know what. I know bookstores are going bankrupt right and left because of the computer and the access to the iPad.
I want Miss Robin to give you a tour of the library.
I know there's a lot of folks down
Am
there.
I right, Ralph?
But we got 32,000.
Down there all
You
right.
see what she's doing down there?
Yeah.
And it will amaze you.
There's still both. There's both.
right.
There's still a lot of books being read and
Right.
being checked
It
out.
could be as simple as a remote book drop in Crawfordville, something that simple. Go ahead.
And it's a good time to point out that the computers that Wendell is teaching our kids with, they're paying for through their grant.
That's right.
Yeah, we're not pulling a lot of money to the county to run the county, but we're also not buying those computers. We're not paying those salaries. Howard?
Yeah, I agree with, I guess I don't want to use the word agree. I support Commissioner Merritt's idea of having some form of the library at that community center. Now, it's geographically far enough away from our library where if you throw a few computers in there and allow those kids to get on them, I think that makes a world of difference with a lot of our youth. So giving them that opportunity, well, I'm saying from the county's perspective, I don't know if we're able to get on those computers that are there now, whatever the rules are, but I think that's really important to have, and they're interviewing these little kids in Cuba, and what they want is they want hi-fi, they want Wi-Fi, they want to get on the internet. That's their wish. So, and our kids are thirsting for it also, and a lot of them don't have it at home.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I want to say is I understand there's challenges to how to fund it, but I know also that I understand what Chuck and the others are saying about the intrinsic value of it is too. I've been down to the events whenever we would have events, but I've also taken time off during the day on more than one occasion. I've went and toured the facility while Ounce of Prevention was there, 21st Century. I've done that on more than one occasion. My day job is I work for the Florida Department of Corrections. I've been the last 18 years working in a prison, and a third of Florida's prison population is under 25 years old, believe it or not. And I've seen the programs where we, whenever I'm there each day, I see the programs that they have to try to, whenever they come back into society, to reenter. But many times I've asked myself and said, if they'd have had this to begin with, they would have never been there. And whenever I look at these programs, that's what I see. I see that preventative side of it, that you can catch them and mold them before they ever get there. And it's hard to put a dollar amount on that in intrinsic value. So whenever you speak of that, I know firsthand. I'm reminded every day, and I see it every day. Well, the outcome of what can happen whenever you don't have anything there to steer them in the right direction.
I think it's also important for us to note the number of organizations that's represented in this room today, the people that are putting their heart and their soul and their operation into this thing. So it's clear there's buy-in from the community. And I'm guessing that this is probably only about half of what's represented at a normal monthly Coalition for Youth meeting. Those meetings will drag on 2 hours or more sometimes. There's a lot of people with a lot of content that they're running through our community center. So certainly we have the challenge. We definitely have the challenge of figuring out how to fund it. Hopefully grants will show up to make it easier for us. I'd like for us to look more at rentals, more at fees. Next year, we're going to ask the citizens whether or not they want to approve the 1 cent sales tax renewal. That would be a good time for us to say, do we want to pull 5 or 10% off of the 60% that we've got going toward roads now, and maybe ask the citizens, would you like to redirect that money and put it toward the community center instead of putting it toward roads?
That can't be used for operations, though. Only capital improvements.
Infrastructure.
And there's another...
There is a caveat. We'll have to get back to you on that.
And we're going to have another workshop for us to sort of work with the different options and look hard at the numbers that we're going to be dealing with in each one of those options.
There's something else I want to mention as well. Everything we've been talking about was about how to utilize that space that's inside that building. But that building's sitting on over a 20-acre parcel of property, and we have mentioned recreation several times, and we have not even tapped into the potential of what that property could do if we because all of these programs are using the actual building. I don't think any of them are actually using the outside area of the property. So if we can find a way to maybe think outside of the box, and recreation-wise, how could we utilize that? And that's a space to where, you know, the inside may be tight at that moment, but there may be ways to open it up that is simultaneously from the outside utilizing the acreage.
I want to have a car show there. I want to tell you.
Randy and his car show.
Why not?
What I would like, if y'all just give me some idea of what do you want to do when we workshop this again, or do you want to come to the April 6th meeting and have a workshop prior to that meeting, or do you want us to come together with an agenda item with a couple of options? I would like to have some type of resolution, up or down, by the end of April, by our last meeting in April, because beginning of May is when the ounce needs to move forward or not move
You
forward.
wanna have it,
So,
You want to do the next?
I'd like to try to do a workshop as soon as possible and have it, that it's basically a workshop.
right. All right. Well, if to help that workshop out, I need some direction as to what options do y'all want to look at. You want to look at one of those 4 options, or do you want me to look at the hybrid that Commissioner
I'd like to
Barrett?
look, personally, and y'all can tell David what you want, is transitioning from the county taking over the program as it is today with the ounce grant, what that would cost, or if the ounce grant would pay all of our costs, and then a plan to transition immediately after that to something, and maybe there'll be a transitional period in the middle where we move more towards a rec center.
I can
Type
second
and
that.
And utilizing 21st century, right?
Yes, because I talked to Gail about this.
And
at
ounce as
length.
long as we have it.
Right.
Yeah, of course, 21st century, I think we need to keep that no matter what. I'm willing to subsidize that. It's a big return on investment, but over the 2-year period that's remaining on the grant, transition to a more of a rec center than a community center. I know the ounce has contractual things you have to meet, but we need to be cognizant that when the ounce money runs out, those programs are going to run out. You know, if the groups that are there want to continue to provide services, I'd like in our plan to have a plan to say, NAMI, that's just the easiest acronym I can remember, so NAMI, here, you can use this space, or you can move to the library if you want to continue to provide service, or you can move to the the hog barn, I don't know, whatever. But just some sort of plan where it will require us to spend money, because the grant's going to run out. But I'd rather, if we're going to spend money, I'd rather spend it on recreation and possibly some library-type activities there.
David, I support
It's not
that
free.
I support that 100%.
If we're going to expand money, we do need to expand the things that are going on there to
Look at
catch
that.
a wider net of demographic of people.
Now, again, I think the 21st century is doing as good a job as can be done for that 3 to 6 period, other than utilizing the outside areas. You know, I'm sure if there were basketball goals there, they'd be filled to the brim, too. And we can work on FERDAP grants for that stuff, right, David, to pay for
Some outside basketball courts that could be used anytime.
I bet they'd be full every day of the week.
Yeah.
Well, what we can do is we'll bring back the options that you talked about, or the option that you talked about, but also have it to where we assume the ounce grant ends in June, but also the ounce grant, here's what will happen in June, then the ounce grant, if we take it on for the next, to run it out, here's the way that would work as well. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, my thinking on that is these programs are worth paying for, especially if it's free with a grant.
Right, right.
That was the big point Gail had made to me.
Actually, and just real quick though, for clarification for ounce, they are looking for immediate response about who will be the fiscal agent for 15-16
What's the time frame on that?
immediately.
They're going to have to wait for a workshop.
Next workshop.
Do you have what our cost would be?
We'd just be the agent.
We can take over as physical agent. We were
Yeah,
gonna
but
address
David,
that.
you can say that, but tell me what the cost
No,
is going to be.
That's up between us and the clerk. That's the actual who writes the checks.
Yeah, but
They just flow the money in and out.
That's right. We just flow the money in and out. We've already got that. That was in a contract anyway with WCCY to transition it. And all they're saying, and Alice is saying, is y'all ready to make that transition now, or you want to leave it at the sheriff's department? We're saying we're ready to make that transition. So we already knew about that.
as long as when I look at that TV camera and the citizens out there don't ask me what I've done, how much money I'm
As of
spending.
right now, that's not adding any extra money.
We're going to administer the grant.
That's right.
And now, unfortunately, that means we're gonna have to fill out all those forms and questionnaires.
they're going, WCCY still does all their stuff. All we're doing is collecting money and stroking checks.
We're gonna be responsible for the people that are, and if Ounce gets mad, they're gonna call you.
Well, if we take it over, but for right now, until the end of June, WCCY is responsible.
But my point is, if the Ounce grant is unhappy with how the results are being collected, they're gonna call you instead of
and
somebody
understand
else.
the physical agent has nothing to do with operation and what we're talking about today. That has nothing to do with it.
So fiscal agent is not responsible?
It is, but it has nothing to do with taking over the community center or not taking over the community center. That's something that we had talked about early on with WCCY, that we were going to transfer it from the sheriff's department being the physical agent to the clerk, because we were going to have to take it over anyway.
I'm not really clear on what's our liability here?
As a physical agent,
Yeah.
it's no more than what we do right now with other grants. It's just another grant.
Heather, can you comment on that?
I don't really know what the fiscal agent means. I think it means you're just writing the check.
Yeah, we're writing.
You're not the grantee.
Okay, so
That's what I mean. We treat it as a grant, income in, expenses out.
We're acting as a bank?
We still have to account for the money. If we
Yeah, we
don't,
have to
if we
account
don't
for
manage the money, we certainly have some liability, but.
That's right.
The county will have liability if it incurs expenses that are not reimbursable by the grant?
Right. That is true. Which is just like any other grant that we have.
So if Chuck goes and buys a new car tomorrow, we'd be on the hook for the cost of that vehicle.
So do we get to okay?
We wouldn't pay for it, but he would have it anyway.
So do we get to
By the way,
okay the expenditures? That's what I'm concerned about. Are we just signing off on whatever happens there, or are we looking at the expenditures and saying, okay, this is legit, go ahead and do it? I mean, is there any kind of control over here, or are we just signing our name?
There are controls that we have within our system, yes.
There are also controls within Ounce. I mean, you have to have budget amendments that are scrutinized to the T. So.
And are they audited the same way that any other grant would be?
I'm sure they are, yes.
So if I'm understanding, this would be basically in two parts. Right now, Coalition for Youth is operating, and the Sheriff's Department is the fiscal agent.
Correct.
So we've got two decisions to make. Do we take over operations, and do we take over fiscal agent?
Well,
so we're saying now we can take
y'all
over.
Y'all don't even have to worry about the physical agent. That's something that as soon as Greg says he's ready to go, that'll be between
We need to be
WCCY and
comfortable
Greg.
with that.
Yeah, but we're not taking over operations either.
No.
Right.
No. Not right now.
We could tell
Y'all
them.
got to be comfortable with that. That's right.
We're
You're
comfortable with that. We can tell them now that we'll take over as fiscal agent. Coalition for Youth still is the operator of the facility until
Running the
we
contract,
figure out
yeah.
which plan we're going to take and we accept operations of it.
Is
Till
this a
June.
year-to-year contract that we're dealing with?
It has to be renewed every year.
Okay.
And it's at the whim of the legislature too, right?
Not as much as some other grants, but Ounce of Prevention Fund in Florida is privately and publicly
It's
funded.
one
so.
line item veto away, though. I mean, that's the regional planning councils were funded for
Luckily
20
the-
years, and then
luckily-
1 year they said, no more.
Luckily, the CEO of Ounce of Prevention Florida was just nominated Volunteer of the Year by Governor Chris. So I think they're safe for a while.
Governor
so.
Scott.
Governor Scott, I'm sorry. Well, that was a.
Yeah, you're about to scare
I'm
me.
aged myself. Yeah. So.
Well, like I said, you know, the regional planning council were funded for 30 years, and then one day, not that it has anything to do with anything, but
and that's
it
life,
could be
yeah.
line
That's
item
life,
veto.
yeah.
It could happen.
I think Miss Wendy will tell you it's at the whim of the legislature.
Mhm.
I want to make one more thing clear. It's our understanding we're going to transition that to the budget on July 1. We want to feel a clean break in that.
Yes.
I don't want to take on the responsibility of what's happened.
Oh, no.
And that's where I was going with the liability and what's going on. Right. Okay.
So we got a few minutes to spare. Miss Dicio, is she still here? Okay, I cut her
Cheeseburger.
short.
Go get a hamburger.
Anyone else want to speak that has not spoken at this point? Any more discussion from commissioners?
I just want to close and say that I think it's a real success in a rural county like ourselves to have the partners that we have here represented to come together for the common goal of our community. And I believe that whatever challenge lays ahead of us, that I believe the partners that's here represented, that we can work together with the commission and come together for a viable solution and a viable direction. I got full faith in us finding a solution. Thank you.
What do y'all, workshop,
Yes, we do want to schedule a workshop.
April 6th?
It's fine.
Okay, 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right.
Thank
We
y'all.
will adjourn. Thank you all for coming out and your input.